get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Omri Hurwitz. You can check him out at OmriHurwitz.com. He's an amazing media company, which I'll introduce you, Omri, in a second. I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. This is kind of a combination, Omri, I was telling you, of like a top agency series and top Israel business leader series. And I had a David Bitton of Doorloop, a really interesting story of how he grew his SaaS company. And I think at the time when he had hired over 200 staff in the matter of like a year and a half, they raised over $130 million. It's not his first rodeo, obviously, but he shared the journey there. Another one was my favorites. I don't know if you've heard of him, Omri, but Elon Gold, one of my favorite comedians. He's hilarious, and he does great imitations of Israelis along with other people. So people can check that one out. And Luis Navone of Mobileye. He was one of the founding engineers of Mobileye, and he talked about, obviously, people in Israel know this. It's like a unicorn. They were acquired by Intel for $15.3 billion. But the interesting part of the story was kind of the ups and the downs and the sacrifices they had to make, because it wasn't always that obvious, right? So he had to go back to his family, his kids, and be like, we're pulling out of all extracurriculars, and there's no more eating out, because there were some lean times in those days. And so it was really interesting. So that and many more on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. How do we do that? We do that in two ways. One, we help companies launch and run a podcast. We're an easy button for people to do that. We do the strategy, accountability, and the execution, production. Number two, we're an easy button for companies gifting. We make gifting, staying top of mind, easy, whether it's clients, partners, prospects. I like, Omri, also for it to be affordable. So we do everything. Just give us a list of your addresses and people, and we'll do everything else. We kind of call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background to make it easy for the company for their podcast and for their gifting. Omri, for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. And I know the same is for you too. And so I'm always looking at ways on how I can give to my best relationships. And I found no better way to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So you can check it out at rise25.com. And I am excited to introduce Omri Hurwitz. He's a media entrepreneur and investor. His companies have worked with over 50 leading tech brands. You can see them on their websites, such as Loanbase, Spike, SendBlocks, Walnut, Taylor Brands, many more. And we're going to get into the weeds a little bit on what they actually do and how it works. And also with investors, he's involved with owning over 15 media outlets as well. So I'm excited to chat. Omri, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Big fan. Thank you for letting me be on the show.
I want to give a big shout out too to Noah Eshed, who we were connected actually. I've followed your stuff before, but she's like, you need to have Omri on the podcast. And so thank you, Noah at Bold Digital, and they co-host the Real Life Superpowers podcast. I listened to that episode. It's a good one with Omri there too. But I want to start off,
great
people, totally. Talk about your media company and what you do. And I'm going to share the screen because there's a video piece. So if they're listening to audio, you can check out the video too.
Awesome. So I own a media company. Today, we're the largest tech media company in Israel. We do three things. One, we do PR for startups, and we do that in the USA market, so USA-based media outlets. And we work with about 50 clients at a time, at any point in time. Today, I think we have something like 52 or 53 clients. What we do is we work with Israeli startups and USA-based startups as well. And we publish articles about them in the United States, right? In Forbes, Business Insider, Fast Company, Digital Journal, TechCrunch, etc. And so that is like one part of our business. And we've actually took a very traditional industry, which is PR, and really modernized it, really made it tech driven. And I think we're going to kind of dive into that a bit later in this conversation. The second thing that we do is we buy media outlets or percentages in media outlets. So we would go to media outlets in the United States and we would buy 15%, 17%, 20% into media outlets. And the business model behind that is both on the revenue side. So we get more revenue to our business through advertising, sponsorship, sponsored articles, sponsored events, etc. And then the second thing is we try to make that asset that we buy, we try to make it worth more, and then we sell it if the opportunity arises. So that's the second kind of part of our media company. And then the third part is actually has nothing to do directly with media, but we invest in the stock market through the profits of our company. So basically, we have this three-layered, multi-layered process that kind of incentivizes each one of these steps. So the PR clients helps us get, the opportunity to buy into media assets, and buying into media assets help our PR clients, and investing wisely in the stock market helps us create a better service and product for our clients. So that is like our three-step method or three multi-layered platform. And that's a bit about us.
You started when you were young, which is interesting. We'll get into how it all started, but I want to focus in on the media outlet piece for a second because it's really unique. You don't find, companies doing the services you're doing that's like, hey, we're going to own some media companies too, like media outlets, right? Which makes sense because when you have, a certain amount of investment and stake in it, it's easier to get your clients in something that you own, I imagine. So talk about the idea for
100%.
starting to invest in media outlets and how that came about.
So it actually happened very organically and very purpose-led. So let me explain. We started doing our pitching to the reporters, etc., when we started our company, and people were, and we had a really good success rate because we use analytics and data-driven insights in our pitching to be able to kind of incentivize reporters to write articles, usually articles they would not write otherwise, just because we were incentivizing them through data and analytics. And then what happened is the reporters would come to us and tell us, listen, Omri, every time we publish an article about your client, it goes viral. Why? Because our company also does the amplification of those articles through advertising, organic coverage on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And then I had profits in the company, and I told myself, wait, we know how to market media, and I don't see a reason why a PR firm shouldn't own a media outlet. So I bought my first stake in a media outlet, and the negotiation was very easy for me because the media outlet that I bought really wanted someone to kind of take it off their shoulders in a sense. That media outlet was kind of struggling. And I just saw so much potential in that media outlet. And I kept telling myself, there's so much I can do with it. And we made that first acquisition. The first acquisition actually, the first one actually failed. So the first acquisition, we weren't able to actually turn that media outlet into a substantial media outlet, into substantial revenues, etc. But we kept it, and but then we ended up selling it a bit later on. But we basically broke even on that media outlet. But then on the second media outlet that I bought, and that was while I was still holding that first media outlet, I was not afraid. So I was not afraid to take another chance, right? I thought, okay, we tried one playbook with this outlet. Let's try kind of like a different playbook on the second outlet. And the second outlet just worked. And we made lots of money on that second outlet. And we continued to build that model and buy more and more into media outlets. And the thing about that is the more you do that, the more leverage you have to get better deals as you go forward, especially when you already have a track record of knowing what you want to do after you buy that outlet. So that's how it started. So just to kind of summarize, it started because it was a very organic thing to do. And I'm kind of surprised other PR firms did not do that before us. And the second thing is and I didn't mention this in this short speech, is that I was pissed off of just waiting for reporters to answer my pitches even though we had a really good success rate with most of them, it's still a hassle. And I'm like, let me just buy this outlet, or let me just buy into that outlet and get some control. So those are the two main reasons.
No, I love that. Talk about when, I'm curious looking back, what made the first one not work as you thought, and the second one, what made it work better? Because you saw
So first
potential in
of
the
all,
first one, obviously, right? So you're like, this is going to work.
right.
We're gonna kill it here.
100%. So listen, so first of all, this is for the audience to know. Every time you look back at something, you need to look at it in the most objective way possible, because you never know what plays a role in things working and what plays a role in things not working out. And sometimes, and lots of the times, it's not directly in your control, and there's just a handful of options and maneuvers that you can do to basically help yourself in a situation. What happened with the first outlet is we were a bit premature in what we thought we could do with it. So let me explain. We bought the outlet and we had a plan for it. The thing was, while we had the plan, we didn't take into account certain maybe obstacles or certain kind of like things that might stand in the way. And because we did not facilitate a good enough, or at least a sufficient enough business plan going forward, we ended up pivoting too much with that outlet, without having enough patience to kind of let one strategy kind of lead the way. And that's why the first one failed. I would say that even if we ran a different playbook on that first one, it might still have failed, right? So like, there's no need to take everything personally. There's no need to overthink certain situations. I just advise to continue moving forward.
I want to talk about, so when you're going, is it just when you're going to purchase a stake, is it just, hey, we're going to offer you this amount of money for a piece, or are you also offering, hey, we're going to put our resources behind it and there's some sweat equity as well? How do you tend to structure it or think about it when you're approaching the media outlet?
100%. So we definitely, there's totally sweat equity in there. So that's part of the deal. The part of the deal is we buy in and we put our sweat equity inside of it. And the whole purpose is to make the media outlet better and more profitable than it was before we were involved. So that is definitely the kind of like the main priority, the main thing that we do. And that happens with every one of our media outlets that we buy into. There's no passive investments in this field. It's all very, very active.
I want to talk about, Omri, too, pitching. All right. Who knows how many pitches you and your team have sent, right? Hundreds of thousands, maybe more. Okay. I'm wondering the mistakes with pitches that you see people making and some of the things that have worked really well. Okay. There's something I want to bring up, which I think is genius, on some of the things you do when you pitch, but talk about some of the mistakes that maybe you made them early on, or you see other people making when they're pitching.
So I think the biggest mistake that people do when pitching is they think about their client, about their brand, and they're not thinking about the reporter and the incentives of the media. What the media wants to do and what a reporter wants to do is to try get clicks and get seen. His articles to get seen, is the media company to get the clicks, and that's how he's judged internally inside his editorial team. And a lot of PR agencies, they think they have some value to offer to those reporters just by connecting them with their clients. And that is a false way to look at it, because a reporter doesn't really care about that. I was a reporter. I wrote for Forbes. I wrote for Yahoo Finance. I wrote for lots of different other outlets. And I couldn't care less about the kind of like the company that I was reporting on. My incentive was basically to get as much clicks as possible on my articles and to go viral. And I feel like when you kind of pitch a reporter, you need to let him know why you think him writing about your client will make the article go viral, or why it'll make it worth his time, in a sense. And it needs to be very transparent that you really think. And what we do is we actually show data. We show data. We tell, okay, we have this client. This client has done an amazing thing. And look at his most recent articles. They all went viral and they all go viral on LinkedIn and Twitter, etc. Now, the traditionalists, the traditional PR agency, the traditional PR people, they would say, Omri, what you're doing, it's not politically correct in a sense because you're incentivizing a reporter to write something. But I keep telling them, everyone is you're incentivizing a reporter to write something as well. Just you're not actually getting him to do that, right? Everyone is it's an incentive game. Everything in business, everything in media is built upon incentives. And the quicker you learn how to deal with those incentives and to objectively create a marketplace where both sides enjoy the mutual collaboration, the better your pitching rate and your pitching success will be. Obviously, there are reporters where that kind of technique doesn't work with them, right? So, for example, if you want to pitch TechCrunch, a founding announcement, they have their own internal kind of valuation of what kind of founding announcements they write about, what founding announcements they don't write about, and there's not a lot of leeway that you can play in a publication specifically like that mostly does funding announcements, but with 90% of other outlets there is that leeway for sure.
One of the things I want to highlight there, because this applies not just to PR, this applies, I think, to every relationship, just to thinking, what's in it for the other person? What's the incentives of the other person? How do I serve the incentives of the other person? And the big mistake that you mentioned, which is kind of the flip side of that, is what you do right. Obviously, the big mistake is not thinking of the other person and what they need, what they want. We're thinking of ourselves. Because if I go and one of the things that you mentioned earlier, which is amplification, right? Like, hey, will you write about this? If I said to some, it becomes, you create this no-brainer offer. I guess I would phrase it because, hey, you want to write about this? And I mean, I'm not saying that you say, we'll get you 1 million clicks on this, but like, we're going to amplify it and here's all the other stuff that we did. And that's a huge incentive for them because what do they want? They want their stuff getting in front of more eyeballs. So I love that piece. And I think it transcends not just PR, but everything else. Let's talk about the data for a second. Because you said modernizing the industry in PR, obviously, and very tech-driven. Talk about that data and tech-driven piece.
So we have an internal analytics platform that we've built. We actually haven't built it from scratch. We bought an existing kind of subsection of it, bought another one from a different provider, and combined those two together into an analytics platform. And what the platform does is it does both prediction and it does reporting. So let's say I get an article about Jeremy, okay? I put that article about Jeremy, let's say we got it in Fast Company. We put that article into our platform, that it gives us a benchmark of how many views that article got. Now, we don't have access to the actual Google Analytics, so only Fast Company knows the exact number, but we do have a ballpark based on the benchmarks of the platform, right? So that's the one thing, that's the reporting part. Then what happens is we have the other part of that analytics is to basically predict what a certain other article with with the same headline in a different outlet or something like that. We basically A/B test on that will do, and that prediction is about 60 or 65% correct, and that's much better than zero, right? Than not knowing exactly what you want to what the article how the article will perform. And we give access to reporters with those measurements. So obviously our media publications that we own, the reporters have the access to check those data. And I think about 90% of reporters that we pitch, we send them that data as well. So they get full transparency into that, and that helps them create better articles for their outlets. Jeremy, remember, these reporters, they have a big fight ahead of them. They need to fight against Twitter. They need to fight against LinkedIn, against influencers. It's not an easy battle. People think that reporters have it very, very hard, and they need every single ounce of kind of advantage that they can get their hands on for sure.
And then I don't know if you want to talk about AI and how this kind of comes into the picture as well from what you do.
So the AI part is in the prediction. So we basically have a GPT that's get connected to OpenAI. So we didn't build AI ourselves, etc. It's basically just an extension over an existing layer and framework of an LLM. And basically that AI helps helps get us that prediction of like what the article would do. So that's like the AI part, and it's not always correct. Again, it's 60%, 65% accurate, but it's still better than zero.
I want to talk, it's interesting kind of how you got started in all this, right? You were actually in the army and you started writing, right? And
Right.
so it's interesting. If I was your age in the army, that's maybe the last thing I would start doing personally. But talk about some of the things you learned from the army.
So, the army in Israel, everyone has to do the army unless they have some sort of medical or other issues that prevents them from doing so. Um, the army was not an easy time. It was not an easy time. There's a lot of difficulties throughout that journey. There's a lot of stress. There's lots of anxiety. And you really want to be stoic because you don't have you when you're in the army, you need to be focused. You need to be stoic. You don't need to let your emotions dictate, right, what you're going to do. And writing helped clear my mind. Writing helped clear my thoughts, helped give me a moral clarity, helped give me kind of like the understanding of what I need to do in each day, right? It gave me an outlet to write about my emotions, my feelings, and kind of organize them in a very tailored way that they work for me, not against me. And that's what I discovered in the army. So writing came from pain. I felt pain, and I wrote about that pain, and then the pain went away. So
Mm.
that was kind of like the framework and the feedback loop that I have received through writing.
If someone's like, Omri, this sounds great, right? What, maybe just give people a short, what was your process that people
In
can
terms of
do?
my writing process.
Yeah, like you sit down, Perry Marshall, he wrote a bunch of books, 80/20 Sales and Marketing, Detox Declutter, and he talks about
Right.
Renaissance time in his Detox Declutter, right? And his Renaissance time is, he's like, don't do anything when you first, don't look at your phone, don't look at electronics. The first thing you do is start to write. And that creates clarity and all these other positive effects. So I'd love to hear kind of what's your process when you started writing in the morning.
So obviously there's this the morning pages that I forgot who the it's a female author, an acting coach I think or a creative coach. She talks about it in her book, the artist's way or the way of the artist way. One of those kind of books, very
Julia
famous.
Cameron, I think it's right
Right,
here.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. Very famous book. Very famous book. So what I did, I would do spontaneous prose. Spontaneous prose is a technique that Jack Kerouac, who wrote On the Road, he would write. He's a beatnik reporter. Yeah, this is a great book. And what I would do, I would just write and let my emotions and my feelings dictate the writing. So no overthinking, man. No overthinking at
You
all.
go
You let
in and you're just like, I'm just going to write whatever I'm thinking.
everything. You let everything come from your soul. There's no restrictions. It's a playground. It's a play field. You let everything on the paper. You put everything on the Google Doc, not on the paper, on the Google document. You type everything, and you type like an intense person. My mom. I used to live in my parents' house when I started writing, and in the weekends she would hear the keyboard, almost getting smashed. I was basically playing that like a piano, playing that keyboard like a piano. And I just loved it. I just loved putting those words onto the Google Doc, and just everything just made more sense after I did that. Everything just had more meaning to it, and I think that is kind of like my approach. By the way, I have about 33,000 followers on LinkedIn, and people say that they love my content on LinkedIn. And it's the same shit, right? I write from the heart on LinkedIn. I don't try to overthink it. I don't overanalyze it. I do have my mental models. I do have the kind of like the concrete kind of things that I want to say. I do edit some of the things that I do, but it all comes from this very pure consciousness. It all comes from like a very pure intention to it, and it doesn't come from a place of like fluff or ego or those kind of stuff. So I think that might be why it has been working.
Omri, I love to hear. Thanks for sharing that. That's really instructive. What are some of your favorite books? I mean, we talk. I mean, it could be business, whatever it is. I know, obviously, you mentioned The Artist's Way. What are some of your other favorite books that have been influential for you?
100%. So obviously, when you think about a book, the first one I have to say is the Bible, right? The Bible has been deeply influential on me and on this whole world. So I think like there's no book that could have been written without having the Bible before it as the main piece of knowledge and intellectual, emotional, religious. You can name it. You can take the Bible to every kind of direction you want. So definitely, I would say the Bible. The second one is The Fountainhead by Ian Rand. It's a very beautiful and strong book about capitalism, about objectivism, about going with self-interest and self-incentives, and why that actually gets you further and gets everyone else further with you. That book is a big critic against communism and against collectivism. And I found that book very uplifting. I found that book very rewarding. And I found the philosophy of that book very rewarding as well. So that is definitely another book that I would completely advise. Another book that I think is an entrepreneur must read is Principled by Ray Dalio. Now, it's a very famous book, and there's also a PDF version of it. So the PDF version of it is, I think, something like 50 or 60 pages. And you can find it on Google online. And I really recommend reading the PDF version of it. You don't need to read the whole 300 page book. I haven't read it, but I did hear that the PDF version is enough, and you can definitely learn a lot. And what I would take from that book, from the Principles, is a framework to achieve your goals. There's a very clear framework that you can utilize, and that framework works for everyone. It works for an entrepreneur, it works for a comedian, it works for a writer, it works for someone who works in a bookstore. So you can definitely kind of take that and kind of ingrain it into your life.
You like to read as opposed to like an Audible or audio?
So I do reading. I read a lot. I'm a bookworm. I read on my Kindle. Most, like 90% of the books that I read are on my Kindle, just because I travel a lot and I want to have it on hand. I did have a period where I tried to do the Audible thing, but it wasn't as good for me. Like I need to read the letters, right? And I need to kind of like read them to myself in my own mind without kind of have someone kind of read them out to me. I find it more connecting. I find it more meditative as well that way.
Um, we'll get into some specific case studies, so we can understand more about what you do, but talk about running the agency, right? You started as a young age. What are some things, I want to hear some challenges of building the agency and some things that have been highlights. Maybe start with it. What's been a challenge of building the agency?
100%, man. So this is I would actually love to talk about this because I think this is a must listen to lots of agency owners or entrepreneurs in general. So in terms of, and guys, people are listening to this. I think you'll find this point very enlightening and interesting. So unlike other agencies or companies, we got results from day one. So from day one, our company, because of our model and just because what I told you guys about the data analytics and all the blah, blah, blah stuff that I mentioned before, since day one, we became the #1 agency in terms of results. From the first month, first client, we already got 560% better results than our #2 competitor, right? What was the challenge? The challenge was in the interpersonal communications with clients or prospects. Because I was very quick to get results in a very young age, my emotional intelligence or my EQ or whatever you want to call it, or my stress management, etc., was not at the same level. So like intellectually and like I was like because I'm talking about myself because I'm the CEO and everything that happens in the company comes from, in the end of the day, it comes from my leadership, good and bad. So like from the first day, it was very apparent that we have a really great way of thinking about what we want to do with the company and how we want to help our clients. And it worked from day one. On the other side, I was not able to listen to anyone. Like I would like have a call with a client, and I would not able to understand what they like. I would not listen to them. I would just like know what we want to do with them and just like do what we want to do with them, right? And lots of clients, like 90% of clients, loved it. They hated the bullshit PR guy who tries to, who talks in a very politically correct manner but doesn't get them the result. And they wanted someone who's young and fresh and actually gets results, and they got it with our agency. But once you start having, 20 clients, 30 clients, man, you need to start to know how to communicate better internally with your clients and respect them, because it's not all about the results. There's also like personal connections and stuff like that. And once I understood that, it just took our company from 20 clients to 50 clients in like a matter of several months. And by the way, I would say another thing. Don't take this the wrong way. Like, don't try to say, okay, this was a challenge for me, but it doesn't mean that you need to be like politically correct. And it doesn't mean that like you need to be extra careful with your words. I was just on the extreme. Like, I would literally like sometimes like hang up the phone on clients, right? So like I was really on the extreme side. So it's not like, even now when I talk to my clients, I'm not politically correct with them. Like I talk to them in a very authentic manner, and they love it. But I do it out of respect, and I used to do it out of non-respect. So I definitely learned a lot on that kind of front.
I mean, what's an example that you could remember? I'm trying to picture you when you weren't listening. What did that look like? What did the client say? And then what did you do?
So I'm trying to. So I'm going to give you an example that I'm going to try to mask it in a way
Yeah.
that doesn't interfere with my NDA.
Yeah. Don't,
So,
don't,
so
I
for
want you to
example,
get in trouble with any client. So you could say,
for
yeah,
sure, right, or with any past
I'm,
clients. So basically, so I'll give you a situation where this is a very concrete situation where, let's say we got the client, we got one of our clients a conversation with Forbes, with a leading reporter in Forbes. We organized a Zoom call between those two so they can get up and talk for 30 minutes. And before that conversation, I told them, listen, guys, there's a lot depending on this article. You really need to talk to be with your kind of like mindset, and really know what you want to talk about, and be accurate and focused and sexy and whatnot. And the thing is this: when they and they really wanted that Forbes article, they would have killed someone for that Forbes article. They would have hunted a deer for that Forbes article. Let me tell you that, Jeremy. So what happened was they got on the call, and I told him before the thing, the reporter going on the call with you guys doesn't mean he's going to write this article. It doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee shit. But they went on that article, they went on that Forbes meeting, and they took the meeting. And after the meeting, the reporter said he's not willing to write the article. It's not a fit. And the thing is, the clients at that time, they're past clients now, thank God, they thought it was my fault somehow. Or they kind of like were excusing me. And I told them, guys, we've opened the gate for you guys. We got you guys inside the dungeon. You just needed to kind of like maneuver your way into this, and you didn't do that. And that's fine. That happens. But you can't blame the person who led you to to Disneyland, right? You need to do your kind of like optimize your own processes, etc. And yeah, and what happened is I was not willing to listen to them. So I was like, no, you're not going to give me even one feedback with whatever we can, etc. And that was how this situation ended. I was not willing to listen. What would have I done otherwise, Jeremy? I know that would probably be your follow-up question, right? You're a smart dude. That's your follow-up question. So what I would do otherwise is very simple. If I would have the same situation today with a different client, I would be more empathetic with them. I'll tell them, guys, I know it's tough. You guys put 30 minutes of your precious time. You sat with a sports reporter. You kind of like you really tried your best. I know it's not easy. It's not easy that he rejected you. Rejection sucks in every field, in dating, in business, in the media, whatever. Rejection is a horrible thing. I know. I'm sorry. hopefully we can learn from this forwards, and we can do a better job together next time. That's what I would answer. More with more empathy, more kind of gentleness, kind of showing that I'm a human and I'm not a robot. But that's what I would do. Yeah.
Would you have done anything different as far as training them at the time?
So I did train them, and it's a Jeremy. This is an actually great question that you can kind of talk about it in whole different fields. So we run the same playbook for all the clients who have this type of conversations with reporters. We run the same training playbook with everyone. Statistically, 60 or 70% will get the article, and 30 or 40% will not get the article. And that has nothing to do with how we would train them. We can't, because we can't optimize. We try to optimize. We always try to make our playbooks better, etc. But at the end of the day, there's actual things that are out of your control and out of their control. And sometimes, to be frank, out of the reporter's control as well. He might want to write about a company, but I don't know, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have a sunbathe party in the spring, in Malibu, and he would have to write about it. There's nothing he can do, right? So that's how it works.
Yeah, I asked because I mean, all the founders or CEOs have a different level of charisma too, right? And so
very important.
There's a playbook, right? You give the playbook to Tom Brady and you give the playbook to some other quarterback, it's not as good. It's different results. So that's a factor as well, I imagine.
Jeremy, it's the most absolute factor. The more charismatic the CEO is, it could be a male or a female, the more kind of like assertive and cool and kind of free flowing with their lingo and with their words and with their ideas and with their vision, etc., the better results you're going to get in media. In politics, Jeremy, people say, when they call someone a populist, right? That kind of right. So in media, the more you're a populist, the more results you're going to get. It's that simple, man. It's like the more you're a populist, the more you're able to kind of lean a crowd in, kind of like Trump style, or I don't know, or like there's or like Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, or like there's so many different examples. Javier Milei of Argentina, etc. So like all of those guys who are like labeled populists in a sense, they're very that same rhetoric is the one that's going to help CEOs get more media coverage. We know this for 100%. Like that's how it works, and we tell our clients that as well.
How do you coach someone? Like, what do you say they're going in front of Forbes and they're self-aware. Like, I'm not that charismatic. I'm just behind the scenes CEO. What do you tell them to, I don't know, from a mindset perspective, when they're in that meeting? Like, how do they increase their charisma, or however that works?
So before the meeting, we try to see if they can be replaced by someone who is more charismatic naturally.
Yeah, I get that.
Move
yeah.
into like a CTO position or a CPO position or whatnot. I'm kidding, obviously.
No, I mean, I think that there's some truth to that, because like I'll have someone, Omri, that will say, Jeremy, what if I don't want to talk to people, but I still want to have a podcast? I'm like, well, then you shouldn't be the host. Like, if you don't like talking to people, then why would you put yourself in the position to talk to people, right? Like, don't go against the natural, your nature, right? So I think that's an actually interesting, solution.
That's what we tell them, man. To be honest, that's what we tell them. Like, for example, we do also LinkedIn thought leadership for clients, and some of the clients, like some prospects that we work with, before we work with, they tell me, Omri, but I don't know what I want to talk about. And then I'm like, okay, so don't do it. Bye. Because like, if you don't like, what do you mean you're CEO of a company? Like, a CEO of a company should not be able to shut up. Like, that's the whole point. It's like, you basically need to market your way, you market the product, everything. You only need to talk. Like, it's better to be a CEO to just talk and does nothing else and just have like other great people run the show behind the scenes, like an Elon Musk or a Jack Dorsey or whatnot, than to be a CEO who doesn't talk, but he's like hands-on on everything, because who's going to talk? And you need to talk to make money. So like, so I feel like that naturally, that's the thing that I would advise. But if there's a gun to my head and there's a CEO, an introvert, very highly introverted CEO that I must coach or train, the first thing that I would do is to let go of that control, let go of control, right? So let go of overanalyzing, of overthinking, of trying to sound perfect. Charisma is not about being perfect. Charisma is about being authentic. It's about being vulnerable in a sense. It's about being engaging. It's about being entertaining. It's about, bringing your inner self to the other space, to the other kind of environment that you're in. And that's what I advise. That's the first thing that I would start with is to let go of that need for control, of that perfection, and just roll with it, man. Play with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate you sharing those specific examples, and I think agency owners can relate, right? Because I talk to lots every day. So if someone's running Facebook ads or Google ads, and the client's like, well, this isn't converting, and they realize, well, this landing page is not great. There's other factors that haven't been executed on, potentially. So either the agency has to start helping them with those pieces or coach them up to do those things, right? Um, I do want to talk about some examples. I'm going to share my screen for a second. And people can check out, by the way, everything in Omri and what he does at omrihurwitz.com, which you can see here. I'm on the case studies page. And they have a lot, pages and pages of these things. There's three specific ones that stick out, which is Walnut, Taylor Brands, and Interface. Which one should we pull up to talk through? Which would be the best one?
Let's start with Interface. I think that's a very attractive company to talk about.
All right.
So,
what'd you do with them?
Okay. So several things. Interface is an active client, and it's a 16 total pieces of coverage, but right now it's about 40. We're already at 40. We need to update it, as we need to update all the case studies because they're active. They're currently going. Interface are such a sexy company. It's unbelievable. So listen to this, Jeremy. They started out as a bootstrap. They became a highly, highly profitable bootstrap with tens of millions in ARR. Astonishing in AI, right? They have a CEO, Srinivas Nijay. The dude's a fucking monster, man. The dude is a baller. The dude is just a hustler. He's he's kind of like a mini Elon Musk. Yeah, this guy, this gorgeous smile of a guy, and he's aggressive. He's assertive. He's not the easiest client, but I love him for it because we get better and he gets better at the same time. And they also have a wonderful marketing team led by Chris, who's wonderfully intelligent, the VP marketing. And what happened is they raised 30 million in the funding round, and it was insane because not a lot of companies that raised 30 million are already highly profitable, and literally VCs were fighting to get a space in their cap table. And why do I love this case studies? Is because we've been able to take this company from a relatively unknown startup but highly profitable startup to literally being like on Forbes, on TechCrunch, on Fortune, on every big and major newspaper, and also doing that with like highly niche outlets that we've targeted for them. And it's just a beautiful story of how you can take matters to your own hands. You don't need to wait for an investment. You can start by yourself as a bootstrap founder and just build a powerhouse. And that's what they're done, and we're happy to be their long-term partners. And they're a beautiful client, beautiful people, beautiful client.
And we're here on the page here. This is a sexy topic, also voice AI agents, right? So love it.
Right, and they're vertical AI, so they only work with banks and credit unions. So they went with this very niche approach, and it's working wonders for them.
Awesome. Cool. What about Walnut?
Walnut is a great story. So you can see 78 pieces of coverage, but right now it's probably like 170 current clients as well. Walnut is led or was led. He's not the active CEO by Yoav Vilner, this handsome guy that you're seeing. This guy's the marketing genius. So Yoav Vilner, he's also a very, very close friend of mine. He was actually one of the first tech marketers in the world. He had Ranky, which was the biggest tech media agency 10 or 15 years ago. more like 15. And so he understands marketing. And working with Walnut for about 3 years at this point, it's just a master class in marketing. Like we've learned from them the same way they've learned from us. And me working with Yoav, I've learned about so many different angles of how you attack a problem, of how you make something go viral, how you think about marketing, how you think about PR. And he's really good in seeing the blind spots and kind of realizing that there are blind spots included and how you can basically maneuver around them or kind of like integrate them or kind of understand things in a better way. And that's definitely what we've seen. And Walnut is one of the most viral SaaS brands in recent history. They've won number one by LinkedIn as the top startup. They've won almost every award out there, and they had massive campaigns like We're Prospects and movements and certain different things that went really, really viral. So definitely, it's a great client, and it's a client that's been with us from the start, or at least I don't know, like a year into the start. And I've learned a lot from them, from working with them.
Omri, first of all, I want to thank you. Thanks for taking the time to share your journey, your story, your lessons. I want to encourage people to check out omrihurwitz.com, which we've been on, and check out more episodes of the podcast. And Omri, thanks so much.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for being on the show. And guys, give the round of applause to Jeremy. He's doing great work.
Love it. Thanks, everyone.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.